Hello, everyone, and welcome to our conversation today on our paths to peace, exploring Colombia's journey to justice and reconciliation. As we wait for people to log in and get signed up, as we go from the waiting room to our Zoom meeting here, our webinar, just a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone on the webinar today is on mute. That does not mean we don't want your questions. We absolutely do. So please feel free to click on that chat box as we have our conversation today. We absolutely want you to be a part of that conversation. So please type in your questions, your concerns. Let us know where you're from there in that chat. And we'll be sure to kind of continue to engage with you and bring in your conversation and questions as we have our conversation. Also, this webinar will be recorded. So if you do have to step away, or if you have someone that you want to travel with who is unable to be here today, we will be sharing this recording after our webinar so that way you can catch up on anything that you missed or share with any traveler who was unable to be here, because we want as many people as possible joining us on this amazing journey. So without further ado, before we get into the beautiful country of Colombia, a destination that's growing in popularity, it's up and coming. It's one of those destinations that might not necessarily be on the top of your list, but after this webinar, I assure you, you're going to see the beauty and the amazingness of Colombia. But before we get into the beautiful destination, a little bit about my co-hosts today. We are joined by our journey host, Richard Pena. Thank you so much, Richard, for joining us.
It's my pleasure, and to everybody that's on the webinar, greetings.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having this conversation about Colombia, why you chose it, and talking about the amazing destination. And then also my other co-host here today is the founder and owner of Nanda Journeys, who will also be talking to us a little bit about Nanda Journeys. But thank you so much for being here, Nicola.
Always one of my favorite things to do during the week is be here talking to you and Richard and sharing the destination of Colombia, which I was so fortunate to enjoy last year. So welcome, everybody. Good to have you here.
Awesome. So as the founder and owner of Nanda Journeys, tell us a little bit about the journey that brought you to creating Nanda Journeys and what makes Nanda Journeys so special.
Yeah, again, a warm welcome to everybody. Some of you are very familiar with Nanda Journeys, and some of you may be not so familiar with Nanda Journeys, but I myself have worked in the travel industry my whole life since the ripe old age of 17. I started in the United Kingdom and came to the US in 2001. And I fell in love with this style of travel, this very people-centric, educational, collaborative, learning type experiences to countries that you might not necessarily put at the top of your list. And when I worked for a student travel company that also did professional development. And when they closed in 2015, I couldn't stop doing what I was doing. And Richard and I had been working together for a long time at that point. So I decided to start Nanda Journeys so we could keep offering these unique opportunities that we like to say travel for people with purpose and passion. And we put a lot of purpose and a lot of focus on other people's passions and what they do. And law is a very important topic that we travel several times. And Richard will talk about your journey with us. But really, it's about connecting you to the people in a really authentic way.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I do love about Nanda Journeys is your Nanda way, how it's an organic thing that kind of came about. Tell us a little, and how it really makes Nanda Journeys different than any other travel company out there. Tell us a little bit about the Nanda way, and why this journey to Colombia is going to be so much more engaging and more in depth because of that Nanda way.
Yeah, and Richard, you and our fellow other leaders and travelers and guides along the way, you've really generated the Nanda Way as a title, so to speak. It wasn't anything that we curated. It was just an organic kind of thing that happened, but it's always at the heart of how we develop our programs. And everything from the conversation we're having with everybody today, authenticity and making sure that everybody has a place for questions and making sure that we incorporate, people in a destination that might not otherwise benefit from tourism or ways of engaging. So there's a few topics today that we'll highlight where we're elevating people that they're trying to just do the best for their families, create economic independence, do great by the community. So we're really trying to give you a taste of what it's like to live in a country, to the good, the bad, and the indifferent, right? We're trying to show you all sides. So yes, of course, we've got wonderful tourism elements, but we also showing you what is real life like when you travel to a destination. So always small group. educationally focused, and my favorite is we don't have a catalog. We get asked that question all the time. Can you send me your catalog? Well, we don't have one because every journey is created unique, and that's really the beautiful thing about working with somebody like Richard is we get to design the program from the ground up. So thank you, Richard, for being part of the Nanda Way and the Nanda family, and we really, really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if I can jump in, Michael, I think it's a good
Yeah.
time to follow up on what Nicola was saying about just the Nanda Way and how it came to be. I've been working with traveling and the delegation leader since the year 2000. Now that's when I was asked by People to People Ambassador Program to lead the first legal delegation that they had. Now, some of you may or may not know that People to People Ambassador Program was founded by Dwight Eisenhower when he was president. And after he left the presidency, it became private and went out of Spokane, I believe.
Yeah.
And at that time, reason he founded it is because he had a vision that if people talk, they don't fight. He was a man of war, but he really craved peace. And I grabbed onto that. And when I was asked to lead their first legal delegation and help with their legal component, I jumped on that. And in the interim, meantime, actually, I've led approximately 21 delegations. And we go to countries usually that are very interesting, both culturally and especially professionally. They're usually developing in either the rule of law or they have some issues that we like to get to the bottom of. Nicola, when People to People discontinued their professional program and concentrated on the children's program, Nicola branched off, and because she wanted to she had the vision and the desire and the know-how, and I came on board with Nicola. So we're really offshoots of that original People to People program, and it's very unique. What we do is very unique. It's you can pick up a catalog, as Nicola was saying, from your college or somewhere else, and it's the same. It's the same thing over and over again. What we do is we delve into the people, we delve into the culture. And what I like to do is delve into the legal component. Along the way, you make great friends with professionals from the other countries. But you also, what you do is you find out what's really going on. It's one thing to see the sites and do the culture stuff. It's another thing to get to meet the people, talk to the people, and become friends with them, and then you really get a pulse for the country. When Nicola talks about the Nanda Way, when she started talking about that, I said, well, what the heck is that? But I soon found out what she's talking about, and it's easy to say that we care about the delegates, but Nanda Journeys, and especially through Nicola, she considers everybody, every one of our delegates is a friend. They're part of the family, the Nanda family, she calls it. And it's absolutely true. I mean, I'm a big believer, and that's why I keep going on trips and leading delegations for Nanda, because they've recently won an award for travel, and they're good. I mean, they're great. We care about everybody, and like every program is shaped. This one is shaped. We start collaborating about a year ahead of time. What direction do we want to go? This one is reconciliation and peace, and so that's why we're here, and that's why we're going to go. One reason we're going to Colombia.
Yeah. Yeah, very well said, Richard. I think that's an amazing reason why people traveling with Nanda come back over and over and over again. But getting a little bit into the weeds, a little bit of the more in-depth details about what's actually included in the itinerary. Nicola, explain to us kind of what is included in every Nanda journey, or especially in this particular Nanda journey.
Yeah, our legal delegations. So it's a CLE credits, and we work with Richard and the Texas Bar Association to get the CLE credits approved before travel. And Richard, I think you say Texas is one of the most difficult bar associations to get CLE approval, and that tends to open the doors then for everybody to get their self-certification in other states, and we'll provide everybody with the necessary paperwork to do that. And my colleague Deborah has assisted many other people in other states with that application, but Texas will be pre-approved for anybody from the state of Texas or who practices in Texas. And our flight is included from Dallas. The great thing about Colombia is it's close to home. It has a lot of non-stops from the United States. So it makes it available to people from across the United States. But our group airport departure, our home airport, is going to be Dallas. We always have an in-country expert with you. So in addition to the professional leadership of Richard, you will have a local person from Colombia that's with you from the day you arrive to the day you leave. And that's continuity, people that know how to navigate, and they're in charge of all the logistics and everything. And we have some wonderful accommodations planned for you. I think mainly 5-star, one of them might be a 4-star, but 5-star accommodations. And we take a really good look at the accommodations. We want you to be in great standard of accommodation with great facilities, bars, restaurants, so on and so forth. So comfort is really important to us. And then we have unique peer conversations. Apologies for the little typo there. That's the Nanda way. We also know that we're not perfect. So we do have conversations with lawyers and people that can really give you an insight into peace and reconciliation. So basically everything is taken care of. And your private transportation, all your transfers, porterage for your bags. So we want you to be able to turn up, engage, and enjoy. And that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And then from there, one of the things that makes our unique journey so unique and so engaging are our journey hosts. You've already met from them, you already heard from them, but our journey host on this journey being Richard Pena, and his experience in the legal field brings such a unique perspective. One of the things that I do love about these journeys so much is that obviously you're in a new destination, you're in a new country, you're meeting with local legal experts, but also the expertise that Richard, you bring along with the journey as well. So Nicola, tell us a little bit about Richard himself before. I know for one, don't like to talk about all of my accolades, not that I have a lot of them, but tell us a little bit about Richard and what makes him so qualified for this particular journey.
Well, some of you here this morning, this afternoon, wherever you are, you know Richard well. Some of you don't. He's a very, very humble, but very accomplished friend of Nanda Journeys, but he's also very well renowned within the legal circle here in the United States, and most especially in Texas. We'd be here for the whole hour if we talked about the various awards and acknowledgements that Richard's peers have awarded him over the last few years. But he's got great experience internationally, as he said. He led journeys for 20 international delegations. He was awarded the Presidential Eisenhower Award from People to People. He's the past president of the State Bar of Texas and the past president of the American Bar Foundation. Last year, he was awarded the National Conference of Bar Presidents Fellows Award. And I know, Richard, you've got another award that you're going to receive here coming up soon, and others and others. And Richard is just a heart of gold, and he cares about the world. He cares about learning about the world, about listening, about reconciling challenges, and he cares about the delegates that travel. So, Richard, my absolute appreciation for everything you do, not only for Nanda Journeys, but for our delegates and for the global citizens at large. Thank you.
Well, and thank you, both Michael and Nicola, for that great introduction. To be honest with you, the awards are simply that. They're awards. You made reference to the 2024 Fellows Award that I got recently from the National Conference of Bar Presidents. That's a conference of all the bar presidents in the country. And they gave me this huge plaque. I mean, it's almost half the size of, or almost as big as I am. Well, I gave it to the Austin Bar Association, and I said, "Here, you guys have it." They said, "Don't you want it?" I said, "No, not really. I mean, it's just an award. It's the people that really matter."
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these trips are all about. It's the delegates.
Yeah.
because I usually have a vision on what we're gonna, what we want to discover, what we want to discover in that country. And then you and I get together and we make the journey happen. And then I like to take the delegates so that they can recognize and see that vision, and all the delegation, all the delegates, they afterwards they say, this is great. I want to come back. This was wonderful. I mean, we're the first legal delegation to go to Cuba, to China, so forth and so on. And we opened doors for the delegates that they would not otherwise have opened for them. And it's life-changing, frankly. And that's what I enjoy most, is to expose our delegates and me and my wife, Carolyn, who goes with us, to all these unique opportunities. It's a big world, but it's a really small world right now. And I think right now, of all times in America, I think it's essential to travel. We need to get out of this country to see how other countries are dealing with similar issues or have dealt with some of the issues that we have. But again, thanks for the recognition.
Yeah. And one of the things that makes this journey so unique as well is the fact that it's a career enrichment journey. So those on the webinar that might not know what that means, they've been on vacation before, obviously. They might have gone away for time off. But this kind of combines that ability to meet other cultures while also engaging with local professionals in your same field. Tell us a little bit about what a career enrichment journey is, Nicola. And I know you as well, Richard. You've been on many of them, so you can feel free to chime in as well.
Yeah, I mean, Richard has been on 20 of these delegations, and he knows firsthand. It's hard for us to put on a piece of paper how transformative these professional engagements are, because you're traveling with peers from across the United States. You're coming together as strangers, you're leaving as friends, but you're also learning so much from each other and from the people that you meet internationally. So to Richard's point, Richard, it's really about the people, it's about the conversation. And maybe you can share a couple of highlights of your past delegations. I know Colombia is our first legal delegation for Nanda Journeys, but it's kind of similar to the other delegations in that we're going because it's really important to understand about peace and reconciliation. And now more than ever, in times where we're having to have those conversations every day, it would seem like, and it's impacting the general population, not least of which impacting the ABA and the lawyers right now.
It's hard to describe how many doors are open when we meet with colleagues in other countries. It opens up worlds that you cannot even imagine. When we were in Cuba, I'm just giving you an example. We were the first legal delegation to go to Cuba, and we met with Fidel Castro's top lieutenants, and they were what I like to call his run-in buddies. And at first it was very tense. There were tense meetings. But after a while, it got to the point where, okay, they're just people, we're just people, and everybody has some common denominators. I remember being dragged up to the podium by one of his top lieutenants, and here we are in this autocratic state, and it was somewhat of a diplomatic mission because we're the first attorneys from the United States, and he said, let's have a toast. And he said, Mr. Pena, he toasted, and he says, we like the American people, we don't like the American government. At which point I said, well, Mr. Gonzalez, we like the Cuban people, we don't like the Cuban government. And there was a big silence because nobody knew we were going to get kicked out or what. But thereafter, we became fast friends, and I went back four other times, and they always welcomed us with open arms. Same thing with China when it was a little bit more difficult there. But recently we were in Ireland, and have met lifelong friends in Ireland, and they discussed the they had their troubles, and which was the IRA and the bombings, and then we talked about the the peace of the Good Friday Agreement that we talked about, but it's a very uneasy peace, and the people still hate each other from Northern Ireland and the Republic. And we talked about reconciliation, and okay, how is that working? And it is working. And that's one of the things I want to talk about in Colombia, the reconciliation after 52 years of war between the rebels, the FARC rebels and the government, and they finally came to a peace agreement. And it's an uneasy peace, but there is a reconciliation. And how do you deal with the thousands and thousands of atrocities that were committed in a legal way, in a legal system? Everything we learn, and there's a purpose behind all of this, because someday America will come back together. Right now we're a divided country, and it's good to know what the road to reconciliation will be and some options that are out there. So we learn these things, and it's not just let's go see what's going on. There is a reason for every journey we take.
Yeah, that's a really good segue into, the discussion topics and the meetings. And, we never anticipated being here, right, as a United States of America. Like, our challenges that we face today have been encountered by a number of countries. And I think the conversation is even more important now. We talk a lot, Richard, about, fragile peace, and, you're being a really good kind of professional peer for me, and my personal kind of thoughts on how do we navigate our professional lives and our personal lives, in a society where things are a little challenging now. And talking to people that have been through this, I think from a professional and personal standpoint, there's lots of growth and opportunity there. And we can bring those learnings back, not only to our practice, but to our communities and our wider network. So the power of the conversations that you can all read the discussion topics and what we're going to engage in, but the power really is how can we absorb that, learn that, and utilize that when we come back from Colombia. I think that's what keeps you and I so engaged in developing these programs.
Yeah, absolutely. And looking at the CLE discussion topics, and to touch on CLE again, what we do is once we have all the programs that are there, who we're going to visit, number of hours, we tag a number for CLE, 8 hours, 6 hours, 10 hours, whatever it's going to be. We approach the State Bar of Texas, and in the past they've all these trips they've granted CLE, and without any problem. And what Nicola was touching on earlier is that, and I'm active in the ABA and have been for a long time, and so I'm very aware that State Bar of Texas is a gold standard for CLE throughout the country. And so if one of you comes from New York or Illinois or whatnot, it's usually not a problem to get accredited in that particular state also. But in looking at what we're hoping to discuss, there's a reason for that. I'm looking at the peace agreement in 2016, and we also were hoping to meet with, and Nicola may talk about this, but also meet with the participants in the conflict on both sides, as we did in Ireland. And you meet with the combatants also, as we did in Ireland. When I was in Colombia before with the ABA, we met with the leading lawyers, the Bar Association. We met with their Attorney General, and you get a glimpse, an inside glimpse of what's going on in their country. When we were in Turkey, we met with their Bar Association, and I walked into the room, and they said, why are you here? And I said, we want to talk about the rule of law. And that's when Turkey was transforming from a democracy to a authoritarian government with Erdogan. And they said, well, in 2 weeks, we all may be in jail because we went before the court and demanded a fair trial for one of the defendants. And the judge and we're going before the judge for contempt of court. and the sentence is 2 years and disbarment, but we're going to do it. And I digress with those stories only to tell you that every journey we take is very unique, and every journey we take is very impressionable, and things happen.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. Yeah, and I hope that, these conversations, these stories that you've shared to kind of set us up for kind of our experience that's going to be happening in Colombia. For those that have traveled with you to Ireland, that peace deal happened many, many, decades ago. This is a much more, uh,
Recent.
yeah, much more present, it happened much more recently. And so, yeah, so we're going to get a chance to experience all that Colombia has to offer. As you can see, we depart for Colombia. We arrive on the same day. The beauty of traveling to South America is you're not having to worry about the 6-hour time difference. They are all within the U.S. time, so the jet lag isn't as bad. So we depart on day one, arriving in Bogota on the same day. We spend 3 nights in Bogota before flying to Medellin. We spend 3 nights in Medellin before flying to Cartagena and ending with 5 nights in Cartagena as well. The other thing I love about this itinerary, for those of you that do travel quite a bit, is you get plenty of time in each individual city to really explore it. This is not what I like to call a pajama tour, where you're 1 night here, 1 night there. You get a chance to really unpack and explore each individual city, which is going to be a great opportunity before we depart back for the U.S. from Colombia on day 12. So, first day, we fly from Dallas, Fort Worth into Bogota. For those of you that are joining us from other parts of the country, as Nicola had mentioned, we can fly you from other parts of the country. You just have to reach out to us, so that way we can kind of let you know what the additional costs might be if you're flying out of another gateway. We arrive in Colombia a little bit later in the evening, so this day is primarily a travel day. Once you arrive in Bogota, you will check into your hotel, as well as kind of get your documents and just kind of get situated at the hotel before the following day we're actually getting a chance to experience the beautiful city of Bogota. Tell us a little bit about what awaits us in this beautiful city, Nicola.
Yeah, you're staying in a wonderful hotel that some of our former delegates have stayed at, the Hotel de la Opera. It's in a beautiful part of Bogota. I was fortunate enough to be in Bogota last year. I was there in October with a group. So it's a beautiful city, and the Andes Mountains are surrounding you. So this day will be dedicated to cultural explorations for the whole group. So guests and delegates will be with their guide to have, a city tour, but you'll also visit the Gold Museum, which is very, very unique. So it'll tell you about the history and, the very rich gold. It's one of the world-renowned gold museums. So it's really, really important that we've included that for you. And after lunch, you'll do something really unique, and it might sound a little odd, but we're doing a graffiti tour. I did this. It was one of my highlights of my Colombia experience because I learned so much. So during the challenges, protesting was not possible. People were arrested, put into jail. So the silent protest, the peaceful protest, made its way through art. So there was graffiti everywhere. So graffiti in our mind is ugly tagging, and it makes cities look very ugly and uninviting. In Bogota and actually in Medellin as well, you'll see this beautiful artwork, and they're commissioned now by companies, even by the government, to tell the stories, right? So that was the peaceful protest. And it's a fascinating, fascinating tour that I think will be a highlight for pretty much everybody that's joining. And then in the evening, the welcome dinner, one of those, cornerstones of every delegation, is coming together as strangers, and that first welcome dinner is a really important element of that.
Yeah. People finally start to meet with those that they're traveling with. I know the itinerary said you get to create your very own Nanda graffiti. Do you
You
create the Nanda
do.
logo in graffiti? What exactly are we creating
Well,
in graffiti on this
we'll
journey?
we'll get to see how creative a group you are. You'll go through that creative process of, what is graffiti? Why is it important? How do you do it? And it's a lot more challenging than you might think. Those spray
I can
cans are not
imagine.
easy to create into that beautiful art that you see on the bottom there. It's like, I don't think our group certainly came up with something interesting. It was not representative of that beautiful piece you see on there, but it was beautiful to us, and it had lots of meaning, and your graffiti will have lots of meaning to you as a group as a whole too.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Yes.
And that welcome dinner is a huge moment for travelers to come together. Richard, tell us a little bit about experience for the welcome dinner and your experience in past delegations of the importance of that first meal, eating and breaking bread together.
Well, before I do that, I want to talk about the graffiti because I live in Austin and we have graffiti art all over our city too. So I'm really curious about that and see how they do it. I always enjoy the welcome dinner. I think it's one of the highlights and one of the essential pieces. Not only the welcome dinner, but the conversation we have before the briefing. We have a welcome briefing where we talk about the country. We talk about a few housekeeping things, and then we meet each other. We get to know each other, and it's one of the few times that you can, as a group, everyone can talk about themselves just a tiny bit. And that is a launch to the rest of the trip. There's a lot of bonding, and you'll see there's going to be bonding throughout the trip by the delegates. It's a little slow at first, but then we get to where we need to get as a delegation, and that's we move as a team. If somebody has handicap, for example, or they're concerned about too much walking, not to worry. Just let us know ahead of time and we make arrangements to facilitate a good experience for everybody. So we just need to know any concerns that anybody might have, and we'll work to alleviate those concerns. But anyway, Michael, the welcome dinner, it's cannot miss. It's a great time, as is the welcome briefing.
Yeah, great opportunity for everyone to meet one another as we prepare for our journey through the rest of Colombia. On day 3, we have our first professional engagement day. This is our first opportunity for the professionals that are part of this delegation to actually meet with other local professionals. Tell us a little bit about what we expect to do today, Nicola.
Yeah, so as Richard mentioned earlier, we're working with some wonderful contacts down there in academia, government. The ABA, Richard, has been in Colombia with the ROLI program for many, many years, and we're rather working together collaboratively to set up those meetings, some of which will be factored around the final delegates. So, interested conversations, interested topics. And I know you've been in touch with Chris, and we've been in touch with Chris to help us coordinate that and make sure that it's a well-rounded conversation that looks at all sides of law in Colombia.
Yeah, and Nicola, Chris is pretty much the head of ABA ROLI in Colombia. ROLI is a rule of law initiative, and they're there for rule of law purposes to train judges. And it was a part of ROLI that I visited Colombia a while back, not too long ago. And that's when we talked to judges and lawyers. And Chris is very helpful. I mean, he has said we had emails and telephone conversations. He said, tell me what you want. And they are embedded deep in government circles, in the legal profession. So he has access to the top-notch lawyers or whoever we want. So I think he's waiting for us to get back with him in order to finalize the direction we want this program to take. And sometimes we wait a bit until the delegates that have signed up tell us some of their, what do they want to see? What are their desires and wants? And then we can go in that direction also.
Yeah, it's going to be a well-rounded academia, government, practice, community. So, looking at the peace and reconciliation from all sides. And as you said as well, we'll be meeting with people that are involved in the conflict, involved in the peace talks and the ultimate peace agreement. So that's what you have to look forward to. So a very robust conversation about the rule of law in Colombia, but how it's shaped over the years and how did they navigate that really, really difficult period where, still today people think Colombia is a very, very, very dangerous place because of those past transgressions and issues.
Right.
The reality is it's a very safe place to visit. It's not without its challenges. That would be ignorant for us to say that. But yes, it has its challenges, but the reconciliation in these capitals, in the capital and also in the other cities you're going to visit, is absolutely phenomenal. And what I felt when I was there is, wow, we could do some of this in the United States, in some of our urban cities that are having challenges, because what they've been able to accomplish in the short time that, the peace agreement to now, it's 9 years, and it's
Right.
transformational. It's unrecognizable as a city, and the functionality of the city and the development of education and jobs and entrepreneurship and, people coming out of poverty and crime to be, this cohesive community and society is that blew my mind, right? I went in with a preconceived notion, as many of us do when we travel, as much as we try not to, it's unavoidable. Colombia will truly transform your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, and while we're doing this professional engagement, while the professionals are engaging with the locals, the other locals, professionals, their counterparts in Colombia, this is also a delegation that's open to one and all, right? Everyone is welcome. So if someone is a professional, legal professional, they want to bring their traveling companion, their husband, their wife, they're more than welcome to do so because we have a guest program. So tell us a little bit about that guest program and what that means for those that may not be as interested in all that legal stuff happening throughout the journey.
Yeah, guests are a really critical element, of course, and all guests are welcome. So you'll take place in an Emerald workshop. I did this, it was fascinating. This is some of my group, and you learn about, emerald mining, and about 60 to 70% of the world's emeralds come from Colombia. So it's a significant piece of their exports and their GDP, and it has a wonderful, fascinating history. You'll learn about how our emeralds traded, what is the business. There are so many small independent emerald traders, especially in the city of Bogota. So that'll be fascinating for the guests. And then a cooking class is always, I know some of our alumni are on the call today, and I know as a guest, they love the cooking because it introduces you to a different side of the culture in a really fun and engaging way.
And then at night, they all come back together, and the guests talk about their day, and the professionals talk about their day, and they kind of share stories, which also makes those conversations at dinner a little bit more exciting. Or sometimes they meet at lunch, but it always makes those conversations at lunch or dinner. They always want to kind of switch spots, right? It's kind of a unique thing as well.
Yeah.
On day 4, we travel. One thing that makes this itinerary a little unique is we're flying from city to city as opposed to driving from city to city. So tell us a little bit about what to expect from this travel day to Medellin.
Yeah, so one of the beautiful things about Colombia is you have the three prongs of the Andes Mountains, which are not easily navigatable by car or by motor coach. So we fly from city to city because it simply would just take far too long to get anywhere by land. So, but what you do get to see is the beautiful landscapes. The Andes Mountains are surrounding you wherever you are, and it's truly, truly beautiful. So the travel day in of itself, allows you to see part of the country. So Medellin is fascinating, and I think was my favorite city. My husband probably feels differently, but it was my favorite city because of the transformation. So here, when we go on to talk about what they're doing the next day after an evening, getting checked in, of course, and doing your dinner, the next day you're going to experience the city in a way that is so unique. They have these cable cars, and we have cable cars here for ski resorts or, for fun, for leisure. The cable cars here and the metro system was a way to bring the city out of poverty. The favelas that you will see up the side of the mountain where people, they fled from the countryside, from the crime, from the issues and their land being taken away and so on. And these slums were built into the side of the mountainside, and that made navigation, really challenging. And part of their recovery is they have a network of these cable systems that allow people to get to work, go to school, and it costs $1 a day to ride all of them, and it connects with the bus service and the metro service. So you'll see Medellin from this high elevation at vantage point, and tour around. And at the end of the day, you'll have this wonderful experience in Moravia, which for those of you that have started to read up on Colombia or know a little bit about Colombia, it's where Castro did his sheep and wolf clothing kind of situation, where he built hospitals and schools, and everybody thought he was this wonderful, exceptional guy that was giving back to the people, only to realize that, of course, there were very ulterior motives for all of that. And you'll visit this area and see how have they transformed, and what are they doing today to be kind of a beacon for not only other Colombians, but the world. Like, how do you survive that? How do you come out on the other side of corruption and lack of opportunity? You'll meet a wonderful lady who I met, and she's been awarded many awards like Richard. So Richard, you'll be in great company with this lady, and she's kind of the adopted mayor of the town, right? She's not official in any capacity, but people look to her for leadership, and she took in women's children so that they could go to work, and she took in old people from the streets because they had no family. There were so many young people lost in this horrible war. Old people were left without anybody to take care of them. She took them in, and it's a fascinating experience. It goes deep into what were the impacts of the conflict and how have they come out on the other side.
Yeah, and I think not to over it sounds like an amazing experience, and not to overlook throughout this itinerary, we've seen lunch at local restaurants, right? We're constantly trying to have lunch in local areas as well.
Yep.
Kind of that
Yep.
Nanda way of, we're not having lunch at the hotel, we're not having lunch. It's these local restaurants supporting local businesses, but at the same time, getting that true Colombian feel as well during our tour of Medellin.
Mhm.
And this morning, we get it on the day 6. We have a morning together where we talk about Pablo Escobar and a tour of Medellin through the eyes of Pablo Escobar. Tell us a little bit about that, and obviously the growth that has happened since then. You've already explained, but how things are much different when Pablo Escobar was in power.
Yeah, what you'll see here is Medellin, and you'll have read it. It was the scariest, most dangerous place in the world. And that is, you can't challenge that. It simply was. But today, it's a hub of tourism, art, music. This is us with a group of dancers. These communities now thrive, and tourism is a huge part of that. People come to visit with them, learn hip hop music, in the streets, right? So there's been this entrepreneurial boom of people thriving through their art, through their music, through their tourism services. So you'll get to experience all of that, but you'll understand the undercurrent of, during the Pablo Escobar era, what did that mean for this city? And then it will be really blow your mind how they are where they are today when you hear the backstory and the challenges and how dangerous it was. So that's going to be fascinating for everybody. And then the afternoon, the professional members of the group will again have an opportunity to meet people that were involved in this really dark conflict. And the accompanying guests will go to the Museum of Art. And again, the art history here is super phenomenal.
Yeah. And I think, to your point, one of the things that I encourage people to really come on this journey is because it's still kind of a hidden gem, Colombia as a whole, right? When we think of Colombia, we think of Pablo Escobar and the danger and all that. It's still a very authentic destination. Once tourism starts to hit the destination like Colombia, like it eventually will in the coming few years, it changes. It becomes a much more westernized culture. It becomes a much more touristy type place. It is still a very authentic location here in Medellin, and getting a chance to experience that authenticity on this journey is part of the reason why I think now is the time, why Colombia is such an important destination to visit before it becomes too popular. On day 7, we actually leave the city of Medellin for I pronounced like 5 or 6 different ways in this presentation. Medellin. Uh, but we leave for Cartagena. Again, we hop on a plane, we fly to Cartagena. Again, kind of a unique experience. We're getting a chance to see the beauty of Colombia from 30,000 feet. Tell us a little bit about this travel day, Nicola.
Yeah, Cartagena is a little bit more well known because it's been a port city, but it's a stunning, architecturally stunning, beautiful, old meets new. So this picture actually, in the foreground, you're seeing these beautiful stone churches and the different terracotta tile and the beautiful colors, and the backdrop to that It's kind of like mini Miami, right? So the development, the new modern day development. So it's a really a city with two sides, and it's stunning. For anybody that loves photography or architecture, this is a beautiful city just to meander and wander. So it's a beautiful historical center. So you'll travel and arrive to stay in your hotel and have dinner before the next day out, where you'll have, again, a cultural orientation to Cartagena with your local guide. And you'll be met along the way by specialized guides, right? So you have that national guide we talked about who'll be with you the whole time to make sure everybody's where they need to be. But in each location, you're going to be joined by people who are specialized in the topics that we're covering during the day. So this is rum tasting, of course. You're on the Caribbean side of Colombia now. Cartagena is on the Caribbean. So there'll be a little bit of rum, some great different food, and the feel is completely different. It feels like you're in another country here in Cartagena.
Yeah, right there on the ocean. And tonight we gather for dinner to experience to talk about our experience in Cartagena. On day 9, we have our final professional engagement day, meeting with some of the locals. Tell us a little bit about what I know we're still kind of putting the details together. Tell us a little bit about the professional day and what is left after lunch for our group.
Yeah, they have, so many different museums here, and the oppression of, the slave conversation comes in here. So this is a precursor to the following day a little bit, and understanding what was life like here. So the culture is very Afro-Caribbean, the culture here. Very, very different. So you'll have a different legal conversation because we're going a little bit deeper into the history of the challenges of Colombia. And the guests will be doing like a drumming workshop in La Boquilla. So again, Afro-Caribbean vibes here, drumming, music, dancing. So the vibe it's lifted and elevated in a very different way here. So this will be another fantastic day. And I know we're talking to Chris as well about university visits and meeting with people who were involved in past conflicts and community reconciliation as well.
Yeah. And Forbes actually listed this town as one of the coolest neighborhoods in the world. So, you gotta, it definitely has, as they would say, Richard, a vibe, as the kids would say nowadays. It's definitely got the vibe. I think that's how you say it. I'm not much of a kid anymore, but it'll be a great, engaging day. And on day 10, we have our full day in San Basilio, first free town in America of African slaves. Tell us a little bit about the uniqueness of this final day in Cartagena.
Yeah, for those of you that have
Not
been
final day,
to
sorry.
Cuba or some of the Caribbean islands, it kind of has that vibe around it as the picture demonstrates here. So yes, this was the very first free town in the Americas for African slaves. So of course, a unique place in history. And we're going to join like a local mama for, they have a sweet tooth here. They love their candies, and sugarcane obviously was huge, so they've learned to fashion that into many different delightful treats with molasses and all these other beautiful things. So we'll go to a local mama's house and learn about that. But there's an important conversation around, cultural heritage here as well. So it's not just about, okay, we're going to learn how to make a candy or a specific, sweet treat. It's about, okay, how is that important? Again, this is allowing women to be economically independent. So they'll sell their wares at the markets. And so there is a backstory here. And the Nanda way is always at the forefront of why we do things. And this is one of those elements in the Palenque area to learn about the culture, the color, the community, and how they are moving forward to develop into a thriving state.
Yeah. And I know dinner tonight is actually not tonight is on your own, but I think dinner on the last night is a farewell. But tonight dinner is on your own. I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
Um, so tell us a little bit about that. So I know we're running a little short on time, but I feel like it's an important part of people that might be interested in traveling on their own. They might feel a little bit like, oh, I don't want to go because what do I do on my own during free time? I'll be walking around by myself. Tell us a little bit about how, as a single traveler, if you have some free time on your own or some free time as dinner, how does the journey typically kind of work for them?
Well, Richard, you might speak to this a little bit, but from my experience, nobody's ever on their own because you bond at that welcome dinner, and even though there were free nights for dinner, people typically all go together, right? But Cartagena is a vibrant, like town. It's been a cruise port for many, many, many years. So the dining options are fantastic. You can dine on the wall that goes around the city for views of the old town and the water. There are so many very accomplished chefs in this area, you know, cocktail bars and beautiful restaurants. So much to do here in Cartagena, so he's purposefully left some free time for that. So you can explore independently because it's a very easy place to do that.
Yeah.
And we always encourage buddy system in case somebody wants to travel by themselves. We like them to hook up with some other of the travelers and the delegates, and Nicola's exactly right. Usually on the free time, it's very organic. You say, hey, let's somebody will make a reservation. Who wants to go to this whatever restaurant? And then usually people say, yeah, I want to go. So we wound up having a group dinner. Really, frankly, that's kind of
Yeah,
how it works.
so it
But
usually
so sometimes people want to stay in, and we're very flexible. If you want to stay in, just tell us. You know, this is not a strict, you have to be here, except for the professional meetings. We do require you to be there on time, but otherwise we are flexible.
Yeah. And this is our final day in Cartagena. I mentioned yesterday, the day 10, but day 11 is our final day in the city. Tell us a little bit about heading out to the Rosario Islands, get a chance to see the ocean, the beauty of the crystal clear water. Tell us a little bit what to be expected here on the Rosario Islands.
Yeah, so in the morning you'll take a boat, so you'll have a full day planned. So, you know, at the end of a busy week, this is a day just to relax. There are opportunities to have a massage if you want to do a massage when you're on the island, but this is a place just to relax, enjoy the beautiful warm water. It's super clear. There's loungers and quiet spots, and it's just a beautiful day to unwind, enjoy the Caribbean before leaving the next day. A local lunch is provided for you. So this day is very leisurely, very enjoyable. Even the boat ride is just so enjoyable. Warm, pleasant, not a little bit more humid here than the other destinations because you are in the Caribbean, but you know that water and swimming in the beautiful Caribbean Sea. Yeah, just a great day to wrap things up, to relax, enjoy, and take a book,
Yeah.
read, sleep, enjoy the water,
Awesome.
whatever you want to do.
And then we gather tonight for our farewell dinner as we bid adieu to the beautiful country of Colombia, taking our, as I like to say, taking our memories and leaving our footprints, enjoying an amazing journey. We depart the following day after breakfast, heading back to home from Colombia. So, details about the journey. Like I mentioned, Paths to Peace, Exploring Colombia's Journey in Justice and Reconciliation, 12 days, 11 nights. Dates are September 17th to the 28th, 2025. It includes 23 meals. So most of your meals, 11 breakfasts, 7 lunches, 5 dinners. A lot is included in the journey. The cost is $5,999 per person, inclusive of air out of DFW. It's all based on double occupancy. If you are planning on traveling as a single, there's a single supplement of $12.99. Also, if you're interested in land-only pricing, we're able to provide that for you as well, if that's something you're interested in as well. If you are interested in signing up, the deposit due to hold your spot is $500. Space is limited on this journey to 20 people. I know I've worked with Richard for the last 2 years. He always sells out his journeys. So I'm telling you now, if you are interested in this journey, please sign up sooner as opposed to later. It is easier for us to give you that refund minus that $95 fee. As opposed to adding another seat to the journey. So it's better to have that seat and not need it than need the seat and us tell you it's not available. We do not like putting people on wait lists. So, you know, if you're interested, sign up, sign up, sign up. If you are interested in more information, you can use that QR code there at the bottom of your screen as well to be able to get more information or even to make your reservation on our website as well. Also, for joining this exclusive webinar and being a part of our amazing journey by signing up, you have a $150 savings off of this journey. The only caveat to that is you need to make your reservation by May 31st. Using that savings code webinar 150 when you sign up for the webinar, I'm sorry, when you sign up for your reservation, that $150 will be automatically deducted from your reservation per person. So if you are interested by attending this webinar, or basically by being a registrant on this webinar and watching the recording, you'll be able to save that $150 off per person off the journey. Also, in regards to opportunities to make your journey your own, tell us a little bit about that, Nicola, how they might be able to add pre-nights, post-nights, extensions, that sort of thing, upgrade their air.
Yeah, lots of people traveling with Richard, they like to go in early, stay longer, see a little bit more of the country, upgrade their flights to business class if they want to do that. So any and all of that, it's your journey, your way. So whilst we have this core program to offer to you, we can add elements to it that make it special for you. So just let us know your goals, your thoughts, and we'll support you in making all of those things happen.
Wherever you're flying out of, wherever you're flying into, we're happy to kind of get you there and get you home. Also, something that we do highly recommend is travel protection. Tell us a little bit about the travel protection that's offered by Nanda.
Yeah, we work with Traffic Insurance. They've been a beautiful partner for many years. They offer many different policies to suit people's different needs. So we'll provide an opportunity for you to get a quote. No obligation to purchase, but we do recommend it very highly. Things happen, of course. So this gives you your financial protection in the event that you were to get sick or not able to travel or things like that. So that'll be provided to you post-registration. And if people have questions, we're always here and available to support that.
Absolutely. Not required, but highly recommended for sure. And then also electronic booking info and link. So your ability to use that QR code to get on and register online, you can always call Nanda Journeys at 888-747-7501 to make your reservation as well. But we assure you by logging on to the site and doing your reservation there, it is secure data protection. All that information is protected as well. Anything you wanted to mention on the electronic booking info, Nanda, Nicola?
Yeah, it's self-service and fluid and flexible. We're always here to support you, and you're always going to be able to speak to somebody live in the office. I take a very personal approach to helping people feel welcome to the Nanda family and supported through your journey. So whilst it is electronic, you're always going to have a live person to talk to.
Awesome. Fantastic. I don't see any questions currently, but if you do have any questions, again, just open up that webinar chat, click on those two little speaking bubbles there. You can ask any questions that you might have. I have a question of my own, and I'll ask this of you, Richard, in terms of Colombia. What was the one reason, or one of the many reasons, what was your top reason, I should say, that Colombia was a destination that you chose this year?
I did some research on it. I know Nicola is very high on Colombia, and I had been there once before, and I was terribly intrigued by the peace process and the reconciliation process. I keep getting back to that because that's going to be the heart of a lot of what happens not only here, but throughout the world. When there's a conflict, there has to be reconciliation. You have to bring the people back together. So I was terribly interested in that, and I wanted to return to explore that a bit more and see how it would apply in other countries here, perhaps. And then I started exploring the culture, and Nicola has been there, and we started chatting, and just yesterday I Googled it, and lo and behold, it's one of the up and coming destinations that there is. It's one of the hot destinations, not only in America, but internationally, they say, and people like to go because of the weather, the people, the culture, and it's very dynamic. And exactly what you said, Michael, it's up and coming, and people are going to start flocking there.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. And you better get.
everybody's welcome. Everybody's welcome. We welcome everybody and encourage you to bring your spouse. Last travels to I believe it was to Ireland that we had one of our delegates brought her aunts and nieces along, and so just more the merrier.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Richard. Any final words from you, Nicola, before we let our audience back to the day?
No, it was somebody who enjoyed Colombia last year with a wonderful group of Nanda travelers. This one's not to be missed, and I can't emphasize enough how different Colombia is going to be. I'm glad that they're going to have the influx of tourism to help them on their way to continue to thrive, but I want you to see it before that happens. And authenticity is important to us, so come and enjoy it. And yeah, any questions you have, reach out. We're here for you. And thank you for being here and being part of the Nanda family. Thank you, Richard and Michael.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank you, Nicola. Thank you so much, Richard. And thank you to our audience for joining us today and being a part of this great conversation. Feel free to reach out. You can see the phone number and the email address there with any questions or concerns you have. We look forward to seeing you on the next Nanda webinar, but more importantly, we look forward to seeing you in Colombia later this year. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Take care.
you.